we saw on Shin P2of2, where the players were trading blows right from the start, and NalRa does look to be, to me, a little bit rusty here, although I feel that with more practice, as the tournament progresses, he will get stronger and stronger. Xavier is actually now taking that expo at the 7 o'clock position, and putting a sunken down at his front as well, and I really don't see NalRa having a hope in this game right now. Xavier with just basically free run of the map, and that's not a position you want to be in as a Protoss player. Templar Archives now up for NalRa, but even though he's got that DT out, he's not in any position to really do any damage to Xavier. He's got no Corsairs, he can't really... The only thing that DT can do is perhaps slow Xavier's own advance. Should Xavier decide to go for ground unit, he's going to have to wait for an Overlord to get up there, or for Overlord speed to be researched before he can really put serious pressure on NalRa. But Xavier, with already his 4th base up, and under no pressure from NalRa whatsoever, economy booming, and... it's just not looking good for NalRa at all here, guys. This is a pretty one-sided contest, almost as one-sided as Yellow versus Tossgirl, where Yellow decimated her with drones alone, although she did put up a better fight against Reach, and you guys should definitely check out that commentary going up on the Valatak account with myself and Caller dueling it, although I should warn you guys, it is highly X-rated, so kids stay away. Get parental permission before watching, because Klazart lets loose on some filth in that commentary. But anyway, and now NalRa with at least some High Templar out, and I think it's a good move by NalRa to not morph those to Archons, to save them up for Storms, because Xavier hasn't really made any attempt to go for Mutalisks, and so therefore NalRa doesn't need that Archon early on, and he'd be much better off having those High Templar for the Storms for when Xavier does come knocking down his front door, which Xavier looks like he's just about ready to start moving out with. He's got his Hydra Link out, and again, NalRa with just that 1 DT, hoping he can sneak in, maybe do some economic damage, but he's going to find himself thwarted. That Sunken there is going to block any attempts of him to do that, and that Dark Templar is going to get sniped by Xavier, unfortunately for NalRa. And NalRa, I don't think has killed maybe more than 1 Zergling so far this game. Although Xavier's only taken down a couple of probes, but he did do severe damage to that Nexus, which is still damage, as well as that taking down Simulator, which has significantly hampered NalRa's plans. NalRa now with his 3rd and 4th gateway up, but he's just in no position whatsoever. He's just going to have to defend desperately and hope his storming is up to scratch and that he can hold out through that, but he's got nothing really to stand in front of those units or those buildings, nothing to really block Xavier from pretty much barraging down. It looks like Xavier is going to circle around NalRa with about 4 Corsairs out. He's managed to accumulate those Corsairs by just pretty much keeping them at home in his base, just to try and slow Xavier's advance a little bit. But Xavier is just in such a strong position, guys, and this is a this is even more one-sided, I think, than Xavier versus Kingdom, which was just a complete domination by Xavier of Kingdom. Unfortunately, complete humiliation of Kingdom. Kingdom just looked all at sea in that game, really out of practice, really rusty, and that, I guess, that reflects his 0-3 score in his group. And interestingly, Toskro in an interview said that she wished she was in Kingdom's group rather than in the group that she is, although Kingdom's group is also the group with Xavier, and I think I would have enjoyed Xavier against Toskro. But NalRa now, with some decent storms, has managed to push out past his bridges and get a decent-sized force going, but I don't think that's really enough. He doesn't really want to be too much out in the open with that field, because if Xavier gets all his units into play and gets a surround on him, NalRa could find his game finished very quickly. As it is, I guess he doesn't have much of a chance the way things stand right now, so he's got to do something, and I guess this is the right move, trying to get some control of the map, trying to get another expansion up and running before Xavier completely runs away in his game. NalRa now trying to take that 2 o'clock expansion and hold that bridge with storms, which I think is a good move on NalRa's part. But yeah, there was a little bit of an interesting discussion in the Voltac comments about my saying that I think that players picking names for themselves is a little bit arrogant, and I was specifically referring to Great. Nothing great about that name. Someone commented that, well, I don't seem to have a problem with Saber's name. Saber just coming in trying to catch those Zealots off by themselves, and NalRa's force divided. He's got High Templar and Dragoons mainly in that force, but he's managed to keep his army intact. And unfortunately for NalRa, he's running a couple of Zealots into those Hydralisks, and he's sacrificing those 2 Zealots so that about 5 or 6 Zealots can join up with his main force. Saber now with Lurkers out as well. I don't think NalRa's got an he's got an observatory. I haven't seen an observer out for him as yet, but Saber's setting up an effective contain. I'm surprised Saber hasn't put a little bit more pressure on NalRa. I guess he feels that he's in such a strong position that he can just continue to macro up and then just roll over his opponent at a time and place of his choosing. But NalRa has managed to push out and secure that expo at that 2 o'clock position, which I think Saber could have prevented. And unfortunately for NalRa, now you're losing a High Templar, getting sniped. And NalRa with a couple more High Templar, they're going to get sniped as well. This is horrible for NalRa. 3 High Templar snipe, and the 4th High Templar gets taken down as well. That is just awful for NalRa, losing those 4 High Templar. They obviously did not have the energy needed for storms, and unfortunately for NalRa, he couldn't reinforce because of those lurkers in the path, since he does not have an observer in place. And this is just ugly, guys. This is just, I don't know. It's like one of those situations where you've got I don't even want to say it. I don't want just this is just horrible. Let's just say it's horrible and leave it at that. I don't want to emphasize NalRa's pain any more than that, elaborate on his pain any more than that. NalRa with now some decent storms, as Savior's force pushes into NalRa's main force, which is really not much to write home about. But yeah, someone made a comment that, well, Savior's got a pretty arrogant name. Well, I think Savior, at least with 3 wins, 3 MSL wins, and an OSL crown as well to his name, has a little bit of a right to be arrogant, whereas Great hasn't really achieved something. Achieve something and then call yourself something big. And until you do so, I don't really think you've got that right. And Savior at least has a little bit of subtlety to it, a little bit. I know it's got that touch of arrogance, obviously, but it's got a little bit of class to it as well. Whereas Great is just far too unsubtle for my taste. Savior just obliterating NalRa right now. It's just literally no contest. NalRa is being devoured here like chocolate candy bar. Candy bar is being devoured by a fat girl after the first day of Lent. Unfortunately for NalRa, he's just as edible to Savior right now, and Savior's just completely devouring him with his forces. NalRa just about managing to hold on to that 3 o'clock expo, and you just feel it's a matter of time before he's overrun. I'm surprised Savior hasn't overrun him by now. But Savior, I guess, just taking his time over this. I guess he likes to torture his opponents before he kills them. Unfortunately for NalRa, and that's exactly what's happening here. Savior coming in now with the Mutalists as well as the rest of his forces, and NalRa all at sea. There's just nothing he can do now. Losing his probes, losing his dragoons, and there goes that base which he's held for, I guess, 5 minutes or so, and that's pretty much GG. And I'm surprised if NalRa doesn't GG right after this. So really, NalRa not in that game. I think he's clearly disappointed with himself. I think he felt he would have been able to put up a bigger fight, and it just shows you the distance that there is. And really, if this game is anything to go by, Savior should have no problem walking through to the finals at the very least of this tournament. GG from NalRa. Completely destroyed in that game. Horrible. That was painful to watch, guys. I am a Savior fan, but even for me it was painful to watch. And I think even for Savior, you don't see that look of arrogance and self-confidence and I destroyed you and I completely ripped you to shreds. You can see just Savior taking not too much pride in humiliating NalRa in that way. Really, it was bazookas against knives there. I'm afraid that was the kind of fight. Unfortunately for NalRa, he was the one bringing the knife to the bazooka fight. But GG nonetheless, I guess. Savior takes the victory and another step into the next round of the eStars Heritage League. And no handshake either. Oh my god. Savior, well, perhaps there is that arrogance still there. There is still that pride. Savior clearly considers himself, and perhaps that was the look on Savior's face. Not that look of arrogance and that I destroyed you, but that this was a waste of my time. Oh my god. Savior continues to play the role of the villain, a role that we love him so much for. This is Klazart, guys. At least Savior provided a little bit of entertainment for us at the end, even if NalRa unfortunately could not, despite trying his best.